Hey everyone, welcome back to the first episode of In the News. I am your host Matt with your co-host Sean. We'll be talking about the Russian-Ukrainian border conflict, the COVID-19 policies, and existing inflation. Sit back and listen. Let us know in the comments what you liked and didn't like. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
All right, let's start with Russia Ukraine because it's first.
All right,
Um,
what do you think about it?
I would say I think I don't. I think it's well, it's a difficult issue because like on one hand, you could just like keep things peaceful and just let Russia do what they're doing in Ukraine. But like on the other hand, like this is kind of what happened in World War II, where we're like, oh, we'll just try and appease them and hopefully they'll stop. And like even if they did stop after Ukraine, like just taking over like a sovereign independent country, like I don't know if that's something we should just let slide. So I think we should like intervene on Ukraine's behalf. Hopefully
We
it
as
doesn't lead
in
to like a military response, but like we should do something to try and help them.
we as in the U.S. or we as in the EU or like
I
who's
mean like
we?
anybody who poses like um military force. Like I
Okay.
think probably like I think you could get a bunch of NATO people to like work on that. I don't think the UN will be any use, but like maybe NATO could do something about it.
I mean, you never know. There might be they might surprise you for a change.
Yeah, they might send them a strongly worded letter. Please stop.
Yeah, man, I don't know. For Ukraine and the Russia conflict, it's just everyone's got their motive. Like Russia, for them, they're just back up against the wall, and then for the EU and the US, they're basically since World War II, their whole mantra is not a single sovereign country can go under, and they've shown that they're very much willing to do anything to save any country they find important enough to save because we both know that they won't do the same for North Korea or a country like that.
Yeah, I'm concerned that I don't think they're gonna do anything for Ukraine because like I think I read something that like Russia provides them with like gas, energy, or something, and like
Yeah,
I don't know if Ukraine's in the EU. They're not in the EU, right?
no, right now they're not in the EU, they're not in NATO, they're not in anything.
Yeah, so
Really,
it's a
if Russia,
non-EU country, and like Russia provides them essential resources, so like they're probably like leaning towards not doing anything.
yeah, right now, if Russia were to just go all in on this and just full out declare war on the Ukraine, there'd be no, on paper, there's no allies of the Ukraine that they can call into a war. It wouldn't
That's
be
the
like
problem with
attacking
isolationism.
yeah, it's like because like if Russia were to attack a country like I don't know Estonia, they're in NATO, so they get to call in all of NATO, but Ukraine ain't like that, so they're all on their own, and that's probably why Russia's attacking them first because they see that Ukraine's basically the last country to pick a side because Belarus is already they're with Russia. You can't really explain it otherwise because they're with Russia, but all the Baltic states they've sided with the EU, Poland, all of Eastern Europe and the Balkans are pretty much in the EU's pocket. And the Ukraine's the last vestige of sort of can go either way. Then Putin's really trying hard to make sure it falls into Russia's column.
Yeah, this is the main problem with anarchy, I think, because like whenever people talk about it, they're always like, "Oh, we got to have some really small communes, and they can all do their own thing." But like the problem with that is, all it takes is like one powerful country to like come in and attack,
Uh-huh.
and you wouldn't be able to stop them.
Right.
Because like
Now they
if you don't
become
have any like allies or at least cooperation with other communes that are powerful enough to stop the invasion, like you wouldn't be able to do anything. Like, you just have to
no,
sit there
yeah.
and take it.
Yeah,
That's
you just
what
gotta
happened
sit
to
there.
Ukraine.
Yeah. And then it also means, for like the countries down in the Caucasus, like Georgia, like I know they're right up they're second place right after Ukraine on Russia's hit list.
Yeah, they're probably gonna go for all those like former USSR countries that are like kind of aligned with where Russia is.
Yeah.
Like as long as they don't have any external allies, they can just go and do whatever they want. Because
Yeah.
like
Well I
their
mean,
only hope is that maybe like us or some other country will do something. Like I don't think anybody besides us or maybe China would be powerful enough to stop them. And
yeah.
why would China do that?
Well, I don't know about powerful enough, but just have the willpower. Because I
Yeah.
don't know about you, but I don't see many Americans jumping head over heels to go fight a war in Kiev.
Yeah, I don't. This has been in the news for like a couple months now. I haven't seen any like reaction from people about it.
Yeah, it's you're
I
just
think most people
reporting on
just
it,
don't
but they're not
care.
really building like any support. Like we gotta save Ukraine or anything like that. If
Yeah,
anything, it
there's
makes
been a
it sound like
larger
it's
reaction for Taiwan than for Ukraine.
right. It's if anything, it's more of just been playing the this is how Russia just is, and we just gotta deal with it type of mentality,
Yeah,
which is
I
kind
think
of true.
Probably the problem is for them is like Ukraine has no strategic importance to us. Like we have tons of bases in Europe already, like in
Right,
Germany, France, and then like in Asia, Taiwan and Japan and South Korea. Those are our vestiges there. Like Ukraine doesn't really have any military importance to us. So like if we were to like help them out, it'd be like totally out of our own heart. Like I
right,
don't know, maybe like we just felt like being nice that one day we'd go help them out. And, like there's no military strategies going over there and stopping it.
right. Other than containing Russia, but at this point in time, there's no real motive to do that. Right now, China's the big enemy of the U.S.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So for the U.S., it's more of the old, like just sticking into that Cold War mentality of containing Russia, when really Russia has been reduced to a regional power.
Yeah, I think honestly, like you said before, China's the real threat now. Like I think it would be in our interest to like work with them more to try and counter China.
Yeah,
But it's unfortunate that Ukraine is probably going to fall because of it. But like that's the problem with being isolationist in the 21st century,
right.
or really any time period, because like most countries that don't have any allies are usually going to fall to something.
Yeah, well, the whole thing about Ukraine isolationists is more because of the situation than by choice, because they definitely want to join the EU and NATO, but they know the second they do
Yeah,
that, Russia would storm in, storm the gates, and kick out the EU and NATO before they even have the papers signed.
I think the process. I read somewhere that the process to get into the EU was like it takes a really long time. Like you have to be verified as like
Oh yeah,
a democracy, and then you have to meet economic standards, and you can't lie about them like Greece does.
yeah. Just look at how long it takes for the Balkans. It took them what, years and years of process. All the busy work and the paperwork back in Brussels. Oh, I can't say I'm jealous. I really can't.
It must be easier to get. I think it would probably be easier to get into NATO, right? Because like it's just a military alliance.
Ah,
Do they have? I don't think they have any requirements to be like a democracy and all that because there's like I think we gotta have. I think there's a couple dictators in the alliance, aren't there?
dictators and Nick. Oh, you're gonna have to show me that one. I
I
can.
think I
Which
think, or
one?
at least I don't think there's like full democracies. I think. Let me look this up.
I don't know. I can't. No, no.
Is
I
there?
don't think they require it, but yeah, they don't require it to be a democracy, but it's definitely frowned upon. They're not gonna let Lukashenko into NATO. I promise you that one.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean. Though, like I don't think you probably get hampered as long as you're like not opposed to like Western allegiances. I don't think you get hampered up if you weren't a full democracy.
Yeah, I think as long as all the member states approve you joining, you can get in. 'Cause I know
Yeah, that's
that's
the main problem.
yeah, that's the main
You gotta get
problem.
everybody to agree.
Let's see. You find anything?
I thought is Turkey a dictatorship?
That's a
Honestly,
it
don't
depends
know.
who you ask.
Yeah, that's what I'm honest. That's what I was thinking of. I have no idea. I've heard things from both sides on it.
Yeah, it depends who you ask. I'm sure Mr. Erdogan would very much disagree that it's not a dictatorship. Uh, there's also those COVID policies down in Australia,
Oh my god, Australia is insane. Like
right?
everything that comes out of there just gets worse and worse.
Oh man, I got some family down there. I haven't heard from them in months, so I definitely
Wow,
gotta check in on them.
that sucks.
But no, yeah, everything that's coming out of there is just horrible. It really makes the best case for why we have a Second Amendment here in the U.S. for when stuff like that happens.
Yeah, honestly, like when I first saw the reports of what was happening, I thought it was one of those like Babylon B things where it's like a meme.
Right.
Where it's
I'm
like,
like,
oh,
there's
this
no way
is
they
this
could
is
be
like
kidding.
it's just a joke. This isn't actually happening. But like, no, this is all actually happening.
Right. It's like, nah, this got to be a troll. Where's the Babylon Bee?
It's crazy. It's like this isn't something you think that would happen like in the 21st century. It's like something that would happen in like 1940s. Like,
You're
no,
right.
it's happening now.
Yeah, yeah. It's just complete. I wouldn't say anarchy because it's definitely not anarchy. There's very clear police presence, but yeah, it's just dystopian down there. What they're doing, just completely arbitrary rules.
Are things like that where you imagine could happen like here if like people keep pushing for like COVID responses? Is that what you think could happen here?
I mean, it would take a lot. Like I don't think they would do it over just a simple thing, but I do think people are pretty sick and tired of all the COVID policies. Like just how it is now, people are frustrated and visibly so. But if they start doing things like down in Australia, where they start mandating vaccines to go into businesses or to travel, just have complete statewide lockdowns all over again. I don't see how that's going to go over publicly well because people are just tired of it. Like they're going up to meetings and boardrooms. They're sick and tired of all these restrictions, and they're not even that strict anymore. Like I live down here in Florida, and it's not even. It's probably one of the least strict states of all, and people out here are very vocally tired of all the vaccines. I can't even imagine what they would be doing if tomorrow the state and the federal government announced that the whole state of Florida would be locked down for the next 3 months.
Yeah, I think if policies like that happen here, it would have to be either on the state or local level because, like, if they tried to do it nationwide, it wouldn't work.
No,
I
it
think
wouldn't work.
maybe in like really densely populated areas with like liberal governors or liberal mayors, it could probably happen. 'Cause
Hmm.
I know like across the country, like the degree of COVID policy like varies a lot. Like some places are very strict, some are very lenient.
Yeah, but
Like
it
up
have
here, there's the mask mandate still, and there's like you have to have vaccines to get into stadiums. I'm sure you heard that whole story with that
oh
one
yeah,
athlete who couldn't play for his team anymore because he refused to get the vaccine.
yeah, I
He
remember
tried to
that.
get a religious waiver, but they wouldn't give it to him for some reason. Like,
Yeah.
I think he's a Christian and he wanted to get a waiver for that, but they didn't give it to him. So he can't play any home games or anything, so the team's trying to get rid of him now.
Wow, that's rough. No,
So,
I
yeah,
know that.
they could probably and maybe in, like, really densely populated areas bring these policies here, because I think people would be more accepting of them. Like, it maybe in a more rural area, there's no way they'd get these passed, like, there'd probably be, like, a resistance.
No, yeah, I think.
Even for the mask mandate, there was a resistance. People weren't wearing them. People do
Yeah.
like I know in some places people were getting like arrested for not wearing them.
Wow.
But yeah, there was like resistance, heavy resistance to it in some places.
Yeah, I know that there's some pretty much what you were saying that is pretty much like the densely urban areas that would be more accepting of those policies. Because really, you can't really enforce stuff like that in a rural area. Like you just can't. Like they have very small police departments. You gotta really rely on the people doing what the law tells them to do. And for a situation like this, I just people are tired of it, especially out in rural countries where they just have been affected the least COVID wise. They've been affected more by the lockdown policies and COVID itself. They're done with this.
And
So
it's crazy to think about because there's like 38,000 different law enforcement agencies in the country. It's like some counties they just have like their sheriff and that's it. And then
right,
you have other areas where there's like thousands of like, officers. It's crazy.
right. So if it were to come to if that those type of policies were to come to the US, it would definitely be the urban areas, specifically places like New York
Oh yeah, I
and
think
San
we'd be the
Francisco.
first ones to get it.
Oh, they'd be the first
'Cause
ones to get it.
there was like a strong reliance on like government policy and
Yeah, and they have
um
the law enforcement community to actually enforce a rule like
oh
that.
yeah, I think we have the largest metropolitan police force in the country. I think
It
if
might even
not
be the
first,
world
like
at this
second or
point.
third. Yeah,
No,
probably in the world.
it's definitely first in the country. I know that for a fact, but probably even the world.
I think there's like 40,000 uniformed officers and then like 7,000 civilian staff, so it's pretty big.
No, yeah, it's if anyone in the US would ever implement policy, it'd be New York, without a doubt first.
Yeah, they have the aid the
The
manpower to
man
enforce it too.
and they have the I hate to say it, but they have a population that's more willing to accept it than a place like
Oh yeah, definitely.
Springfield or Atlanta, where it's a little more mixed.
I
What
think
do
did
you
you
think?
hear that Biden's vax I think it was oh not Biden's vaccine mandate. The New York State mandate for vaccinated workers got upheld by the Supreme Court.
I didn't. What for like state workers or like medical employees
It was
or
it's the state mandate that for vaccine for health workers to get the vaccine, they got upheld.
wow. Yeah, you see, that's what I don't get. Like the courts, they go back and forth on this stuff. Like one week it's like no mandate, the next week it's yes mandate, and then the next week after that is no mandate. So I think really right now something that the judicial system, just the entire branch, has to get on the same page is basically what are they going to say about mandates? Because you can't have this flip flopping back and forth one week to the next.
I think there's another case for Biden's national mandate is also going through, so let's see what he has to say about that.
We'll
But for
see what
now,
the Supreme
states
Court.
have the power to make their own mandates.
Yeah.
I hope Biden's mandate gets struck down. That is blatantly unconstitutional.
Oh yeah, of course, but like they say nowadays, constitutional is just a recommendation.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, like, I remember when Gorsuch and what's his name, Kavanaugh were being appointed to the court, and
Hmm.
even there, people were freaking out. Like a lot of people on the left, you probably saw on Twitter and stuff, they were freaking out about how conservative they are.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're gonna overturn the road, they're gonna overturn this and that, and they get on the bench and they're not even as conservative as people thought.
Right.
Like, you remember that one case about transgender workers? I forgot what
Yeah,
it
I
was
remember
called.
that one.
Gorsuch voted in with the liberals on that one. So they're nowhere near as conservative as people thought. So like you can't really tell where they're gonna vote.
Right.
They could come out
Yeah.
tomorrow with a decision saying that I don't know that straight marriage is illegal now. Because like we don't know where they're gonna vote. We can't predict.
That's yeah. I don't know. For me, the Supreme Court seems to have just a little too much power. Like just nine people determining such vast things in policy and even culture and socially. It's just really unbelievable how much power nine people hold.
Yeah, I agree. That's why when people were talking about Roe and all these other cases, I think the problem is Congress was way too slow to act on the issue, so people were going through the courts to get their reliefs. Because
Yeah.
like I think like these all of these issues that the court settled on, like they're actual issues. Like they had to be settled like some way, and like
Yeah.
Congress didn't act on it. Like they went to another branch that would. But
Right.
like I think we all agree that it'd be a lot better for like the elected representatives to act on it than the court. But because Congress it was either too slow or refused to act at all, we had to go to the courts to get it done. Like
Right. Someone's got
I
it.
think it's a problem with the structure of Congress in its entirety. But like one interesting thing I didn't know is like, did you know that 80% of the average congressman's budget is dedicated to like constituent services?
Really?
Yeah, it's like it's not even legislation. Like it's all like people calling the congressman trying to get them to like intervene on their behalf and like federal agencies and stuff. Like it's
Wow.
not. It has nothing to do with legislation.
That's insane. I didn't. No, I didn't know that.
It's crazy. The structure it's completely broken. They're not even there to like legislate. They just defer all that stuff to independent agencies and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, honestly, that's the biggest tragedy of Congress. They just gave away all their powers to federal agencies.
Yeah, this is I don't know if you remember that one case in WTP I tried to do where I tried to get all of the independent agencies declared unconstitutional. And my reasoning was like they're exercising legislative power, but they're executive agencies. And like this is an unconstitutional delegation. And like that wasn't even a joke. I actually think that this is like an actual thing. Because
Oh
like
yeah, the case could very easily be made, and
yeah, I
you
think
probably
it's an
wouldn't be
actual
over.
thing. Because like it's Congress telling other agencies to exercise the power that was delegated to them.
Right.
Like it'd be like if the president like just said, "Oh, Congress, here you enforce this law for me." Like
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. Like this is completely contrary to the structure of the Constitution and the way the government is supposed to function.
Right. But here we are, and it's apparently our generation's turn to fix it all.
I doubt that.
Ah man, there's just so many broken cogs in the machine of the U.S. Constitution. It's hard to see how it could all still be saved.
I think if it were to be fixed, one thing that we really have to do is like we'd have to like rely less and less on the centralized government and get things more settled at the local governments.
Oh
'Cause,
yeah.
like if you look at the COVID epidemic, especially like the policies varied a lot by country, and I know a lot of people in the rural areas were more against them, and a lot of people in the more urban areas were for them, and that's how it should be. Like you don't have one national policy for the whole country when you have a lot of different areas that have
Mhm.
different needs.
Oh yeah. And the founders they knew that. That's exactly why they made the government the way it is.
Yeah, and I think Biden's federal mandate is like that's a problem because like more rural areas they might not need it and they might not also believe in it. But in
Yeah.
like the rural areas, they are obviously with more densely packed people in an area, they're gonna need it more, and those people might want it. So
Mhm.
it should be up to the more local areas to determine what they need.
Oh yeah. It's just this cramming down of the one size fits all mentality, which it just doesn't work, especially when it comes to policies and the way that the government interacts with its people. It just doesn't work. You can't govern some town in the middle of Nebraska the same way you would govern the city of Chicago.
Yeah, and it's
You
funny.
just can't do that. It ain't gonna work.
Yeah, it's funny. Did you know the guy that my rep is on the House Forestry Council? Like there is no forest in our district. Why is he on the Forestry Council? He should be
Maybe
on
he just
like if
likes
there's like
trees.
some urban planning committee. He should be on that.
Right. Yeah. Another problem. I can just go on and on about the days that with today's Congress and how it works. But there's just so much we can do an entire hour episode of what's wrong with
Oh
Tom.
yeah, definitely.
Look, I think we found our next episode.
I got a lot of complaints about them.
Ooh, okay. All right. Well, let's save that for the next one. And let's see.
we
What about that
got to do
inflation?
inflation. Yeah,
Yeah. How's that inflation hitting you up there?
and it's crazy.
Why is that?
Man, the gas prices are soaring.
Yeah. I know down here it's like a 3.30 to get a gallon of gas. It's double what it's been in like that's double the amount that it was in January.
Yeah, I saw people saying that apparently that this is normal for when like a new president takes over, that mild inflation happens, but I have no idea if that's true or not.
Well,
Like
if
I
that's true,
remember
we
when
must have
Trump took
skipped over.
office, and I don't remember inflation being this bad.
No, it was
It's only
no, it
4
wasn't.
years ago.
No, I last I saw it was the highest jump in inflation in 30 years. And I don't know about you, but we've had more presidents in the last 30 years than just Biden.
Well, Trump is the only one I can remember.
Yeah, when Obama came in, yeah, I was in middle school. Nah, that doesn't count for me. I was in middle school. It might have jumped and I wouldn't even notice. But no, I've never seen.
The
I
thing
know
is,
for
we're coming up on the first anniversary of his term. So, do you think that this is Biden's fault, or do you think it's more Trump's fault, or is it a combination of them both?
definitely a combination of both. Because starting with the supply chain crisis, that has been a long time coming. But it's also policies implemented in the state of California that made it worse, as well as just a number of different policies that Biden implemented across the country, which made a bad but manageable problem into the problem we have today, where it's just so big and is so widespread across the country that nobody really knows what to do. And even the Fed, they're just honestly in the Fed, they're probably just sitting there with their twiddling their thumbs, hoping and praying nothing happens. Because really, the only thing they can do is just sit and wait. Because there's nothing really they can do at this point besides manipulating the currency. But that's a risky game to play there.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter and Instagram and all that, but like there were people who were saying, "Oh, this is clearly Trump's fault," and like people were saying, "Oh, this is clearly Biden's fault," and it's like, well, Biden's only 1 year into his term, so like he's definitely had like he's the president, so like this is obviously he's at fault for like
Mhm.
some of it. But like only being a year into your term, I don't know if you could do that much damage to where like any
Oh yeah,
disaster is like entirely your own fault. Like this has to be like a result of like policy set by previous administrations,
oh
like
yeah,
maybe even Obama, because it's like it's only been 8 years since he left, so he
oh
could
yeah. No,
he
I
could
definitely.
obviously he could definitely have an effect on what's going on today.
Oh yeah, no, definitely Obama, Trump. I'd even say even Bush. Throw him in the ring too.
It
I'm
could
sure
be
all these problems that we're facing now, they've been a long time coming.
like Afghanistan.
Yeah. That's
Like I
yeah.
think Biden completely fumbled the
Oh,
withdrawal,
he
but like he didn't start the war.
oh, yeah, no, but he went out in the most embarrassing way possible.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He made the Soviet withdrawal of Afghanistan look
Yeah.
like a coordinated masterpiece. Honestly, the way I see it, Biden was handed the easiest presidency ever. He literally just had to sit there and not do anything. Like he managed to screw up basically everything he's touched. I honestly, for the life of me, can't think of a single policy success that this man has had.
Like I remember when I was reading the evacuation, I was like, maybe there was something we didn't know, because like it seemed like he was doing the opposite of what common sense dictates. Like
Yeah,
he withdrew the troops before evacuating civilians. Like why would you do that?
right.
Like if you like the average person will like withdraw all of the people in need first and then take the troops out. It's
Right.
like maybe there was something we didn't know. 'Cause, like other than that, I don't know how you could possibly justify this really stupid decision. Like it
Yeah,
makes no sense.
and it just goes back into the Russian-Ukrainian conflicts. Like the Russia, they smell blood in the water. They know this guy won't do anything. The last thing Biden needs is to start a war like that.
Oh
That's
yeah,
the
definitely.
last thing this man needs, and Putin knows that.
It's
China knows
definitely
that.
not politically tenable to like start another conflict.
Oh, absolutely not. Unless there's like something directly happened to the U.S. Unless something directly happens to the U.S. Like we are attacked directly, Pearl Harbor, 9/11 stuff. Public's not gonna go with
They might do an Operation Northwoods.
it. They might.
Like, they're gonna like execute some random American. Like, oh look at the Russians did invade Ukraine.
Honestly, that's the only way I can see it
Like, it's like
even
I don't think
happen.
anybody cares about it.
That's the thing too. Yeah, no one really cares about Ukraine. Like, yeah, people are like, we're sorry that happened to us, but why am I gonna let my son go over there to fight a war that we have nothing to gain from?
Oh yeah, we gain absolutely nothing from doing it.
Because another thing that we have to keep in mind is Russia of today is not the Russia of 30 years ago. Like, it's not the USSR. Russia is, while it has plenty of its own problems, it's better than a lot of other countries at the same time.
Oh yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
it's not like North Korea invading South Korea. Like, if that happens, that's a completely different ballgame. That's just brutal Stalinistic communism being invaded into a capitalistic free society. That's different. But Russia is not that Stalinistic regime that Americans were grown up to believing it was.
And the
Because
interesting thing about it, like people were saying, like, "Oh, look how long Putin has been in office," but like if you look at other European countries, that's pretty normal. Like
yeah,
Angela Merkel, she was chancellor of Germany for like 20 years.
right,
This just seems pretty normal for European countries to just have leaders in office for a long time.
right. Granted, for me, I like how we have the 2-term limit for our presidents, but to each their own. Every country has the government it deserves, and right now, Russia has the government it deserves, and we're
I
gonna.
honestly think that the Democrats were exploiting, like, making Russia out of a political enemy just for political purposes.
Oh, one hundred
Oh,
percent,
look at this, big strong enemy we need to defeat, and the Republicans are being weak on it.
right?
Honestly, we should honestly be making allies out of them instead of enemies.
Well, I do know that's probably Russia's long-term international policies objective, because the way it's looking, all the major powers they all have something against Russia except for the United States. They're the only great power that doesn't have conflicting goals and interest directly. Like right now, the U.S. is only at odds with Russia because of the EU. Because if the EU was not involved, if the U.S. did not give a flying crap about the EU, the U.S. would really have no reason to be in Ukraine. Like, why does the U.S. care about what happens in the Ukraine? Really, it's just to give the strong sense of unity among the EU NATO alliance. If that was taken out of the equation, I can't see why the US would be giving Russia a hard time over Ukraine. I really don't.
I think it'd be in our interest to work with them.
I think so.
Like we were talking about before, China's really the main threat now. So like having
Right.
Russia on our side would probably tip it really in our favor.
It would. And right now Russia and China they're in like this quasi alliance where there's no alliance but they're on friendly terms and this and that. Russia knows that within a few decades they will be a disposable power to China, and they know that. Right now, trying to get a sense of where's Russia going
Oh
because
yeah,
they can't rely
definitely.
on China. Because China, in a few decades, they will throw Russia to the wolves and not give a damn.
They're really setting themselves up for success right now because like
They really are.
they're investing in Africa and all these other countries. They're kind of doing what we're doing. They're expanding their like global reach.
Yeah, I know they have this new base either just opened up or is about to open up down in the Equatorial Guiana or something like that on
Oh
the
yeah,
Atlantic.
Africa. Wow, yeah, definitely.
And that'd be their first military base to refuel and refit all their warships on the Atlantic Ocean. That's big news for the U.S. That's like a big red flag.
Honestly, I think we would need to start being concerned if they started a naval buildup because their navy is currently garbage and ours is way better.
Oh
Like
yeah,
if
right
they
now
started a naval buildup this time, this sound off the alarms.
right now their navy with all the might and the glory that they've been pumping into those numbers, it is primarily defense. They can't do an offensive operation outside of maybe Taiwan, and that's a big maybe.
It's interesting because like we're totally there backing Taiwan up.
Yeah, that's a good topic for another day too. Do you think China's got the guts to take on Taiwan?
I think it's 50-50.
Yeah, right now it's 50-50 because well, the
Like
US
on
is
one hand, they could easily take over the island, but like
oh,
on the other hand, they would have to like either I don't think they could confront us militarily.
yeah,
Well, like, they might be able to force us to back down through economic threats because like, we're
right,
kinda really reliant on their economy right now.
yeah. And no offense, but don't see this president taking a big risk like that.
Oh, yeah.
For
I
the
don't know if
same
you
reason,
remember that, thing that came up, but I think he said something like, "Oh, we were gonna back up Taiwan if China invades," and then the next day, his press secretary came out and was like, "Oh, yeah, we're not gonna do that. It was just a gap or something." So who knows where Biden is on this?
I don't even think he knows. If he did know, he probably forgot.
True.
Oh man, yeah. The thing that's really working in China's favor is that there's no NATO equivalency in the Pacific. NATO really contained Russia back when it was the USSR. They did a
Oh
good
yeah.
job containing Russia, at least in Europe. In Europe, they did that. The Pacific doesn't have anything like that. Closest they got is the alliance between the US, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan, and Australia, India. There's no there's no formality to it. It's more of just like we'll back you up because we say we will, type of thing.
Honestly, the Cold War in Europe was kind of stacked. Like we had the U.S., UK, France, Germany, and like on the communist side, you just had Russia and like what Belarus. Like that's nothing. Like it was stacked
Well,
in our favor. But like in China and Asia, it's kind of like we're there, but like there's no other heavy hitters in the region.
yeah,
There's Japan, but like they can't really do anything unless China attacks them directly.
right. Oh, India and China, they've been butting heads a lot lately.
Oh yeah, I forgot about India, the next superpower.
Yeah, the one right after China. Yeah,
Yeah, India is a mixed bag because, like, I think they have the numbers and they have the potential, but like, man, there's a lot of internal issues.
yeah. The thing about India is they heavily focus on their land military and air force, at the expense of their navy, because they don't really have naval enemies across the waters. Like their biggest adversary, China, and they know that, and they've been heavily putting their ground in forces.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, if I was the Indian the Indian leader, I'd be putting like all of our money into like the land forces on the border between India and China, like
Right.
waiting for the invasion.
Yeah. It's a crazy world out there, bro.
Like something I didn't know. I watched a video on it. China actually did invade India back when Mao was leader. I think
Yeah.
it was in like the 50s or the 60s, and they won. So I did not know that. It was an
No,
interesting
yeah.
fact.
Yeah. No, it's have had a interesting past, and both sides very much clearly remember it. They're I don't know if they're looking to settle old scores, but they're not gonna shy away from the opportunity if the other presents it for them.
'Cause I don't think we have an alliance with India, right? Or at least not a military one.
Uh, we're allies with them, but it's nothing concrete. There's no mutual defense alliance that I know of with India where it's China invades, will come to India's aid. I think
Yeah,
there's
so
any
it's not like us in South Korea or Japan.
right. No, no, no. Nothing like that with India, but we are, for the most part, on the same footing with China and Pakistan.
I think I don't know if you heard about our Japanese Montgomery server, but we were talking about how we would deal with the Chinese issue. And like I think what we would have to do is we would have to organize like a coalition of Asian countries like we did in Europe, like
Right,
all be on the same page of like resisting China's influence. Like you have to
right.
get India, Japan, South Korea, all of them working together.
Honestly, that's the only way to combat China at this point because it's just too big to be taken on by one power.
Yeah. Honestly, if they all work together, you could probably do it without violence. You could probably like get it done economically.
Right,
If they all work together to resist like China's influence, you could probably get like do damage to their economy to the point that they'd have to stand down.
right. And pray that they care enough about their people to actually stand down.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because there are some countries, and honestly, I'm not sure if China would fall under this category where they were very willing to sacrifice the happiness and well-being of their people for whatever the government has in mind
Yeah, North Korea.
at North Korea. But China has changed a lot in the last few decades, so I'm not sure if they would fall into that category right now or not. While they have made some progress to listening to their people, I don't know if it's to the same degree as westernized countries or even countries like Japan, where they listen to their people to the most extreme degree.
I think the party's still in charge of there.
Yeah, that's the thing. It all depends on the resolve and the willpower of the CCP. If they're
Yeah,
willing to lose public face in order to win a conflict, then the economic actions they might not have the same power as they would say a country like Russia.
I think what's interesting about like all of these communist countries like the USSR, Cuba, and China, like the interesting thing about them is like they could never win any election, and they always have to rule by the one party in force because they would never win
Right.
the elections. It's like
Right.
the party has to like be in charge by default. Like no one can would vote for them.
Now there's the perceived sense of choice, but at the end of the choice, either it's the CCP or it's in the concentration camps. I mean, the education centers.
Yeah. Just trying to educate the Muslims.
Right? You know, gotta teach them the right way, the Chinese way, Stalinist way, if anything. Oh man, but yeah, this was all good, but I do think we gotta wrap it up though. Getting
Oh
close to
yeah.
that hour mark.
Um,
Any final words until next time?
this China.
Resist China. Yeah. Resist China. That's a good one. Words for me, blow all your money in gas. It'll
True.
probably get more expensive next week, don't worry. Alright. Well, that's all I've got. Unless you want to add anything else.
I'm good.
Alright, well, I'll see you next time then, alright?